The push to begin reopening the country on Memorial Day weekend came with many risks. Some people used the recently opened venues to throw all caution to the wind, and the World Health Organization warned that easing coronavirus restrictions too quickly could accelerate cases once again and lead to a second peak. We cannot make assumptions that just because the disease is on the way down now that it's going to keep going down, said the head of the WHO's Health Emergencies Program, Mike Ryan, at a briefing. His warning was not just for the United States but for countries across the world. He wants everyone to realize there could be another peak in COVID-19 cases. This would be ahead of the second wave that we have also been warned about. So we would have a second peak and then a second wave. The disease can jump up at any time, urged Ryan. He's not the only one with warnings, as they have also come from others, such as public health experts. They have all urged heads of local, state, and federal governments to take their time reopening and returning to life as usual. These warnings fell on some deaf ears, though, with a public that is looking forward to celebrating summer the way it always does. Many looked past the U.S. death toll that is creeping towards 100,000 and the 2,000 additional lives lost throughout the weekend to COVID-19. They went to the beach, the pool, and everywhere else that would welcome them. A Houston club had a large group swimming and drinking on a patio. Race fans went to opening night at a North Carolina speedway. Even though the Orlando Invades Daytona event was cancelled, hundreds danced in the street near the boardwalk. But the image stuck in many people's minds is the video that was shown of vacationers at Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. They hit outdoor bars and pools and ignored social distancing. There was a large pool gathering with the theme "Zero Ducks Given." Local officials warned there could be dire consequences if this behavior continues throughout the summer. It could potentially lead to a second peak before the second wave is even reached. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner vowed he would come down hard on businesses that do not enforce restrictions. He also had harsh words for those who went to the club, as their behavior risks exposing residents who chose to do the right thing by staying at home. Even in St. Louis County, officials issued a travel advisory after witnessing the Ozarks pool party, labeling it an international example of bad judgment. There's a fear that the scenes from Memorial Day weekend are just a precursor to what will happen the rest of the summer as people buck social distancing guidelines and eschew masks. Many authorities say there isn't much they can do to require people to follow the guidelines now that executive orders have been removed. It kind of ties our hands when they're just guidelines and not mandates, said the captain of operations, Chris Twitchell, of the Camden County Sheriff's Office. At the Ace Speedway in Alamance County, North Carolina, an estimated 4,000 people packed the stands. Local authorities didn't enforce guidelines, and residents certainly weren't heeding them. Governor Roy Cooper's second phase of reopening limits outdoor gatherings to 25 people, but Sheriff Terry Johnson said he'd refuse to enforce an unconstitutional law and allowed the crowd at the speedway. "We're tired of being stuck in the house," said one of the spectators. "I'm not afraid of this virus one bit." Some areas of the country are indeed witnessing decreasing cases and deaths, but others are still seeing the same number coming through their hospitals. Yet, authorities will never get control of the trends with restrictions being dropped. What's crazy is, we're 3 months in, and we're still not able to calibrate our risk management. It's a mess, said University of Virginia professor Brian Nosek. He runs the Center for Open Science. Yet, despite the dangers the holiday weekend provided, it had the effect on the economy that business owners were looking for. The New York Stock Exchange reopened Tuesday to rising stocks. The Dow Jones average was up 530 points at the close of the day, and the Standard & Poor's 500 index came up 36 points. With more signs of the worst of the virus being behind us, investors are beginning to focus on more countries reopening and the lifting of travel bans around the world, said Chief Economist Torsten Slok for Deutsche Bank Securities. More signs of reopening and more signs of travel bans being lifted creates more clarity for markets. Additionally, airports in the country saw more than 1.5 million travelers, a significant increase, while still being 13% less than last year's Memorial Day holiday. Travelers on Thursday and Monday topped 300,000. It's been more than 2 months since there were that many travelers. States should open up ASAP, Donald Trump tweeted. He golfed for the first time in 2 months. The transition to greatness has started, ahead of schedule. But again, along with that return comes the fear of a second peak ahead. We now see a trend in an uptick of hospitalizations. It's a small uptick, but it is an uptick, and it is unmistakable, and it is probably a result of reopening, said Scott Gottlieb, former Food and Drug Administration Commissioner. We expected cases to go up and hospitalizations to bump up when we reopened. Florida, Georgia, and Virginia all had increased hospitalization numbers. We're going to have to watch it, added Gottlieb. The hope is that there's a seasonal effect. That seasonal effect will hopefully offset the increased social interaction, which is going to cause cases to go up. I'm concerned that there are people who think that this is the all clear, he said, referring to the Ozarks partiers. I think what we really need to be doing is defining a new normal. We're going to need to live differently until we get a vaccine.